stay online today. Um, mm, all right, let's see what's going on here. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. If you are just joining me, welcome to Mornings with Malva. I started early today because there is a major outage happening across many, many platforms, and I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to get on the air this morning. So, because the platform that I use to broadcast live is also a part of this is amazing when one person, one company owns all of this stuff that everybody is, dependent upon. So let me do a little bit of reading around that, and then I'll do my morning motivation. Good to see all of you here. There is much to discuss, as you are all aware, starting Friday. So every Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, I'm going to have an after party where I'm interviewing some guest that is on my one of the viewers that's on, depending on the thing that's happening. So on Tuesday, tomorrow at 7:30, I'll have Alexandra on to talk about the layoffs in certain companies and what that has meant to her and so many other people. So we're going to keep doing that just to make sure we can continue to, hear everybody's voice and not just cover the news and not just have guests. The guests are important. David will be on at 6:40 this morning as always, but let me read this to you. So if we chip out, then you know why. A major Amazon Web Services outage appears to have brought down many online services, including Snapchat and Perplexity. An AWS status page reports that more than 50 of its tools are affected by the outage. Other online services that use the AWS structure, including Zoom, Strava, and Alexa, also appeared to be affected. The outage were affected. A status page for Amazon's cloud unit shows that more than 50 of its tools were affected as of 5:20 this morning. Many other online services that use AWS cloud infrastructure, including Zoom, Strava, etc., Amazon Alexa assistants, appears to be experiencing outages this morning, according to Down Detector, a site that tracks online outages. So Roblox, Lloyds Bank, Rink, Halifax, MyFitnessPal, A-Life 360, Zoom, Signal, they're all affected by this. Slack, Blink, Canva. So, and that's just some of them. So if we are talking today and you notice that I'm gone, that's because somewhere along the line, my platform has been impacted. So I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of that. Good morning to each and every one of you. We are here. It is Monday, October 20th, 2025. We are close to Halloween and even closer to Thanksgiving. Well, we're close to Thanksgiving and even closer to Halloween, I should have said. It's 55 degrees and cloudy outside, and it appears to only be going up to 67 degrees today with gusty winds. So make sure you are prepared as you go out your door around what's happening. Let me do my morning motivation because there's lots to talk about. I deliberately did not discuss Kata Scott right after her body was found. I just couldn't. It was too much going on. So we're going to have a dialogue about that, keeping our children safe, keeping our young people safe, keeping women safe in this climate that we're living in. So I'm going to read this. Today's word. In the parable of the sower, Jesus talks about the seed that falls into stony ground. He says, the stony ground is like those who receive his word with joy, but their roots are shallow. They believe for a while, but they wilt when the hot winds of testing blow. You can't become who you were created to be without going through hot winds of testing. Times when you feel overwhelmed, when you are doing the right thing, but it's not improving, when someone does you wrong. That's not just a random challenge or bad luck. You are in the hot winds of testing. How deep does your roots go? How you respond in the difficult times will determine whether you come out bitter or better. Don't let the hot winds of testing cause you to fall apart. If you pass the test, keep doing the right thing. Keep being good to people. Keep letting God fight your battles because your roots go down deep. God will not only turn it around, but he'll bring you out even better. The prayer for today. Father, thank you for today, a new opportunity to love, give, and be all that you want me to be. Thank you for your abundant, abiding grace. Thank you for the unexpected, unmerited favor you have showered on my life. Thank you for the hot winds of testing and using the pressure of challenges to make me stronger and grow me up. Thank you that every test of my faith is preparing me to overcome and preserve, to go higher and increase me. I believe that I am coming out better in Jesus' name. Amen. That came from my aunt. My aunt sent that whole thing to me, and I decided that I was going to share it with you today. For those of you who are people of faith, you understand what all of this means. And when I say people of faith, I don't just mean Christians, or Catholics, Muslims, whoever that believes in a higher power. The hot testing is here upon us, and I want us to remember that we can make it through no matter what is going on here with us. Good morning again to all of you. It has been quite a hell of a weekend. Yes, Saturday, I went to do some apple picking with my grandchildren. Had a wonderful, wonderful time. And I just, I used to post a lot of pictures. From January to now, I have posted 2% of the pictures that I have taken. I've gone to things, done things, and have just not uploaded pictures because I feel like in this time that we're in, there's so much more for us to deal with, right? So I am trying to focus more on what's happening around us versus just talking about all the wonderful times that we're having. Oh, that wasn't a fly. That was just a little piece of lint. Anyway, so we are here, and I stopped at Renee Bolden because she had something for me. I drop off my fabric and she makes things for me. And on our way home, Denise met me, and on our way home, we drove inadvertently past where the Ada Lewis School is, to take her home. And as we were there, I said, Denise, they found something. I could feel it like deep in my soul. I could tell they found something. So I came home and went home, dropped Denise off. She agreed with me. We were looking, the activity looked different. It felt different. And within 10 minutes of my getting home, they said they had found the remains of a woman in a shallow grave. Sometime last night, early evening, they posted that it was Kata Scott. And, I just couldn't. I couldn't. Because what I am watching, I've said to all of you over and again, emotions run high when we're seeing these kinds of things and everybody's pointing fingers and judgment and this and that. We just, please allow the information to come out, please. And there may be some things that you never ever hear for obvious reasons, right? The part of the reasons why so many cases are thrown out, cases are sometimes thrown out, not so many cases. Cases are sometimes thrown out. Police work is interrupted. Pieces were missing because folks didn't give them what they needed. The paperwork wasn't done correctly, et cetera, et cetera. And we want right now in the moment for everybody to tell us everything. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. The police have intimated Deputy Commissioner John, I'm looking at this face, Stanford, said, they have to make sure that they dot all their I's and cross all their T's. I believe they knew that it was her, but they did not want to, get the public, they wanted to talk to the family. They came out in the news yesterday morning that they spoke to her family. So they made the family aware of what they found, right? And that it was Kata Scott, 23 years old. And then I took a deep breath and I said, when we give birth to children, we don't ever know. We want them to become the best human beings. We put everything we can into them to make sure that they will strive to survive and do well as adults. Sometimes we don't. I just want to acknowledge the yin and the yang. Sometimes we spoil our children and give them everything they want and don't let them work for anything. Sometimes we see things in our children that we just don't want to acknowledge because, oh my God, what if my child is really a monster? What is, et cetera, et cetera. Again, this has nothing to do with Keon King. This has everything to do with being a parent and what we see in our children and how we keep things to ourselves, right? There's sometimes children are born with predilections that we don't know anything about them, that we see it in them as they're growing older, and we do what we can to make sure that they're okay. It could be mental health, it could be all sorts of things. But I want to ask us to, in this age of the internet where we take everything and expose everybody and do all that we can, that we just find ourselves to give a little bit of grace. Can we just please use temperance until we find out what's going on? It may be that what you were thinking was right. It may not be. And when it's not right, and you post things that you're not supposed to post, or you throw things up there, then it causes a major issue. I heard somebody saying yesterday, how did Kata Scott stuff get in the news and nobody else is? Her mother must know somebody. Yo, can we stop? Can we just acknowledge that this was a thing that was happening? These parents were able to push with their families to get attention to this child, this missing young person. I saw someone else posting that it should have been national a long time ago because the mother lives in Delaware, and that could put 6 ABC and NBC. They all air in Delaware too. So I just need us to be thoughtful about what we're saying and doing and thinking before we make all these unilateral decisions. Right? Can we do that? Okay, let David in, because Jesus. And good morning, good
Good
morning,
morning.
darling.
Good
How
morning.
are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. So there's a major outage going on. It's called AWS, that Amazon owns and runs, and it's impacting all our platforms. But I came on my platform this morning, it was like, just want you to know we're impacted too. May still be able to get on the air, but let's try. So I told everybody, just be aware that this could be a
Yes.
thing. So if we go
Yes.
out, David.
And you also know that T-Mobile has just installed 5G in Philadelphia. And so a lot of people's internets are just not working currently. So this is the state of our union. Uh, this is where we are. And God knows what this update is doing, why it's for.
And David, I recognize. So I had been, for the last several months, just all of this. We've been talking about all the things that have been going on. I realized it was impacting me so much. I had to completely find joy. Remember that there is a God, there is a universe, right? And while I may not be able to do certain things or impact certain things, that I should choose to live in the moment as much as I can, while preparing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we live in the moment. And so there's that great quote that says that life is about what you do between the two dots,
Yeah.
right? Date of birth and date of death, and what do you fill that in with? And so while there is turmoil and all sorts of things going on in the world, there is still life that must continue, and how you find that
Mhm.
energy, that joy. Speaking of life continuing, I took the opportunity for the first time, and I know I said I wasn't going to do this before, but I did it. And I went to the No Kings March.
Baby.
And
So okay, so we're going there already.
I, I went, and I
Is it
just,
a march or a rally? Is it a protest or a rally? What would
it
you
was
say?
a march. It was a march. Let me tell you why it was a march, because by the time we would have gotten to the place of rally, there was nobody there. It was a march to Independence Hall, which was fierce and ferocious. And I think it was a show of unity. It actually was a peaceful, joyous show of unity. There was not this screaming or yelling or hate mongering that sometimes you hear people say it's going to be this kind of. I want to see it. I sit. My apartment allows me to open my windows and go out into my terrace and sort of hear the noise. And so I could see the people gathering around City Hall, and I could see down to Independence Hall, and I could see the route, and I could just feel the energy. And I thought, I gotta go see this thing. What's going on here? So I put on my little thing, went outside, um, and threw on my jeans, went down, and went and watched the people marching. And I want to tell you, this was an interesting one. This was a crowd of, I'm going to say, a few 100,000 people.
Oh yeah, it was pretty. It was 8 million
And
people. They said marched around the country, and it
yeah,
wasn't just in Philadelphia. I went
oh
through one in
no,
Chestnut Hill, was about 400 people there. There were marches in the conclaves all around the country.
oh yeah, and this one was full of Caucasian people, mostly in their 30 to 90-year old.
I saw that one. Yes.
suburbanite. What I wanted to draw a picture of for America and for the world is what I keep seeing around the world. When I'm in Italy, it's the same group. When I'm in London, it's the same group. When I'm in Paris, it's the same group. When I'm here, it is a group of people who are not just the colored girls leading the march. This is an awakening of the
Yeah.
American spirit that says enough. And so it gave me hope. I will say, going to the No Kings March gave me hope. I got to be with a bunch of our friends there, people who are running for positions in government, people who are in governance currently, speaking to members of the Congress and of the Senate, House Appropriations Committee, all this sort of things. So just kind of having this chat. And what was really great to know is how connected we are, how much we watch each other's platforms, how much we think about each other, how much we support the work that we're all doing to get to an America which sings to that truth that Benjamin Franklin left that building that we were standing in front of and was
Mhm.
asked by that woman on the street, what type of government were you boys thinking of in there, Dr. Franklin? And he
Mhm.
said to her, young lady, it is a republic if you can keep it.
If you can keep it,
And
yes.
those people out there were marching to keep their republic. They were marching to make sure that this is a space in which these truths which we hold to be self-evident, that all men are
Mhm.
created equal and they have the rights to liberty and the pursuit of happiness, are still real values that we hold on to. That
Mhm.
tyranny and derision and sort of monarchy packaged as dictatorship is just something that we will not tolerate here in the soil of the United States of America. So it was invigorating in that way. And I wanted to come here this morning and say to all of you who did your job at staying at home, and that's still a job, right? It's still a job.
Or drove
Um,
by and honked your horn in support because,
there you go.
baby,
And,
those horns were honking in Chestnut
um,
Hill. Folks were putting their hands out their windows and saying, "We're with you. We're not in the march with you, but we're here with you." And to your point, I saw all age groups. I saw three black people. One of them, Denise thought, was Congressman Dwight Evans. I didn't get to because I'm driving, right? So I didn't get to really see his face, but she said there he was with this stick, waving his little hand.
that's what- mhm.
But folks were so adamant about speaking up and using their voices. And this past summer, maybe March, April, May, a group of white women started posting and saying things like, "Listen, it's our fight now. Black women, take a seat. We got this. We didn't listen to you. You have been telling us for God knows how long, and so now we are coming out to have this conversation
Absolutely.
and to tackle the people among us that believe otherwise, that believe that we should lose this democracy that we're in, that believes we're not going to lose the democracy that we're in." Speaking of democracy, the government is still shut down.
And they're still getting paid. Not the government workers, but the people in the Trump campaign and ICE is still getting paid. And all these other people still getting paid to do this ugly work, but they're not paying the people who.
We're gonna come back to ICE in a minute. It hit the news yesterday that if this continues until the end of the month, people will not get their SNAP benefits for November.
And not just your SNAP benefits, but your health insurance is done. Yeah, yeah. And Donald Trump, as horrific as he is, always tells you the quiet part out loud. And so just
Yes.
before the shutdown, he said this is a perfect opportunity for him to do all the things that he would otherwise need checks and balances to do. The power that is given to the executive office to continue moving things through during a shutdown is again something that we must review as an abuse of power. Here now we have the people in charge of health saying that retardation and mental instability is due to birth defect from ways of having sex. I mean, it's all sorts of craziness that's been put out by JFK, by RFK. Sorry, it is there is an executive branch who is stirring fear and who is moving quickly to solidify power, who is already saying that he is going to make sure that this election goes in his favor by helping to redistrict and
Right.
gerrymander places and who knows what else, right? We have just welcomed a Qatari military base onto the soil of the United States
Mhm.
as a trade-off for an airplane for the
Mhm.
personal president's
And
airplane.
and they're talking about firing into Venezuela. Something is happening there. We're so concerned
We
about what's
have
going
been
on here. They've been firing on both quote unquote, and now they're talking about firing into Venezuela, firing weapons into Venezuela. And I don't know what's happening with the Venezuelan people, but I know I have to know they've got to be shocked. The fishermen out in the Caribbean said they've seen some things. They have seen some things, and they just kind of take it in the boat because they don't know if they're going to be fired upon,
I don't
right?
want us to lose sight of the fact that one of the things which is true in America is that during times of war, the power of the executive branch is unprecedented. And so we have
Plus,
been
they have the
working.
plus the Supreme Court says as long as you're president, you cannot be charged with anything,
That's an
right? You
official,
cannot be
right?
charged
You
with any
can't be talking
crime.
about official acts. The only thing that is illuminating over the air that seems to be able to stop this administration, which is a big problem, is, well, I would say twofold. You have people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Candace Owens, who were really stalkers and stokers of this right wing conservative movement, who are now coming out and saying, Israel ain't it, and we're not giving any more money. And this is the problem. Candace Owens just finished talking about the autopsy report for Charlie Kirk, in which the bullet fragments were found in his neck, which would allow us to know that his neck stopped the bullet. If his neck stopped the bullet, it was not from the gun that they said it was, right? It's impossible to have that rifle shoot you and not blow your head off. And now we know that the fragment of the bullet that came out doesn't match that rifle, which means it doesn't match the little boy who's in jail for it. All of this is a problem. It speaks to Marjorie Taylor Greene saying that she's sick of Americans having to send their money over to Israel to fund their government. She's sick of AIPAC. She's in there. When people
And
like
by the
that,
way, the war is not done. Hamas and Israel have been that ceasefire is over. They've been
well,
firing
this is
from each
what's
other.
interesting, and let's be correct about this. Israel said Hamas bombed them. Hamas said we didn't do anything, and then Israel just contended to bomb, 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 bomb. Now, the question is who bombed them. But when you ask some of these people about who bombed them, they said Israelis bombed Israelis and blamed it on Hamas. This is a very interesting turnabout, and what has been so interesting to me is the silence. The silence from that little Oval Office where he had declared all this victory in peace, where less than 72 hours later, already bombs had been flying again. So I also want to remind the public that nobody signed that peace deal. Not Israel,
Not
not
Israel or
Palestine.
Hamas. Hmm.
Hamas did not sign that peace deal. It was not
Hmm.
signed. So this idea that we're just going to propagandize this wonderful, it didn't happen. I all of that in a bow is saying that the ultra conservative right side of the country is deeply disturbed by the death of one of its patriarchs, right, in this Charlie Kirk, and by its ties to Israel, and by what the government continued to do by way of sending funding to help support, build, protect a foreign government. This is
Hmm.
unprecedented for America in this way.
Hmm.
Secondarily to that truth, we're now waking up to an America which is saying, wait a minute, Epstein.
They're still
As
there. Did you see
as
Prince Andrew gave up all his
I
all his
and
titles?
I
His mother died deeply disappointed in him, right? Because he is the one that's been out there, but he's not the
well
only one.
well
There's so
here's
many
my
powerful
problem.
men.
My problem is what appears to be a very Hippocratic moment. Um, just last month, the government of England and the King and Queen hosted at the highest level a white tie state banquet with the state trumpeters hailing the arrival of Donald Trump. There were helicopters and carriage rides. There was white tie and jewels. There were smiling royals and kissing of both cheeks. And this is a man who was at the very top, the pinnacle of the Epstein list. And of all of the people that Ghislaine Maxwell named, that Epstein had videos of him committing these horrific atrocities against children, the only person who ever admitted to being a rapist was
Against
Donald Trump.
children.
Right.
Children, not
The
grown
only,
women.
the
Children.
only
12,
person
13, 14.
The only person to admit rape was Donald Trump. Remember, grab them by the pussy. Remember, when I see them, I just can't help but touch them. Remember when he's in there, he's looking at this guy, and this was all him on tape. So for me, when you turn to your brother, the Prince Andrew, who is still dealing with one
Death
woman,
of his mother.
and that right and horrific, right? And no excuses for his behavior. Absolutely deplorable.
Mhm.
He's been deplorable in his behavior many, many times before. But we're talking about Virginia that we've already discussed, right? He's been put out to whatever. This is a repeat of the information. More information about the same person's coming out. Okay, that's how you need to deal with that. Morally, I get that. But then I need to ask you morally why it is that you felt the need to put on your white tie and kiss both cheeks of the person who has done so much worse in the same Epstein cases, who sends love letters to Epstein back and forth. So you cannot tell me that your brother is so horrific that he cannot be at your child's coronation to come, that he must be stripped of all of his titles, that we can't speak to anymore. He's so awful, and dine with the devil. I need you to make a choice about which one it is that you feel comfortable with. And so I want to believe, and I'm going to
Do
state
you?
that I
Oh,
believe.
okay, so let me stop you for a second, because do you
Mm.
believe that they don't really want to do this, but they have to because there's something that they're being threatened with? Do you believe? Because
I think
I don't believe people unilaterally understand. These are grown folks with brains, right? I don't believe they unilaterally make these kinds of decisions without something happening in the background.
so. There's a couple things that I can tell you are true. One is that the government of the United Kingdom is who invites state visitors to come, not the king or the queen. And normally, the king and the queen are forced to entertain these people, whoever they are. I will point to a historic case in which Hitler was being courted by the brother of who became king. I remember King Edward was first king before became King George, and King Edward actually had a very curious relationship with Adolf Hitler. One which the British government said this is not acceptable. And the real reason why he abdicated the throne was not because of his love for Wallace Stimson. As we know it now, it's because of his relationship with Adolf Hitler. The British government made a wise decision that said we can't have a king who's behaving in this particular way. It's not good for monarchy. The truth is, monarchy always has to do what is good for the survival of the monarchy. So Andrew is a liability. He's a great liability because people will not stop talking about the royal family as long as Andrew is standing up and there are still conversations about what is going on with Andrew. That said, him declaring that he's going to give back honorific titles that have been given to him and or duchies, as we've discussed before, duchies come with
Yes.
a pension, right? So there's money attached to that. So fine, I'm going to give up this money attached to that, and I'm not going to use this title. Doesn't actually legally strip him of anything. He is born a prince of the United Kingdom. He can't
And
give
will
that
always
up
be a prince.
until the Parliament of England decides to declare he is no longer a prince of the United Kingdom, which would be really bad for the royal family because it could mean that anybody who pisses off the government could be stripped of their titles. That would be the end of monarchy, right? So it's something that the royal family really has to be careful how it steps on. I think it's a stupid decision. I think it was really bad. I think he should have kept his titles and been for them. I think he should have gone through the legal process as a prince. He should have had to keep his dukedom, his titles as just any other, and been put in jail. Right now, that would have said the British system, the government system, the system of criminality has dealt with this particular person as an individual outside the confines of their title from birth. Right? We can't strip you of who you are. You just happen to be born the son of Queen Elizabeth. Therefore, you are a prince. So this title giving up is sort of interesting to me because it doesn't actually say anything. He is still the Prince Andrew, right? He will no longer use his HRH. His wife is going to stop using the title Duchess of York. I don't know why. She is still
Yes, I
technically the
saw
Duchess of
that.
York,
Are they
right?
lo- is she losing any money?
So no, technically, here's the thing, which is interesting. If you actually gave up the Dukedom of York, then you would affect your children. So the princesses of York would be affected by the giving of the Dukedom of York, right? They would suddenly lose their status as HRH princess. They've done nothing wrong. In fact, they've been pretty exemplary members of the royal family, and so I think Charles, who was made one of them, one of the state's executives, it's called a counselor of state, and I'm not sure if it's Beatrice or Eugenie, but one of them is a counselor of state, and she's done a really good job at pro Britain and this, and so not wanting to hurt her and I suppose other people who are affected by the Yorkdom title, that title has not been extinct. It's not been removed. It's not been forced out. He's just not going to use it.
Mhm.
That I mean, it's
And all
semantics.
of this, we're talking about all of this because of Jeffrey Epstein.
Jeffrey Epstein. But what I want to say is, yes, Prince Andrew did some really shady shit. Excuse me, pardon me, it's morning television. But I'd like us to also ask ourselves how it is, because if I was King Charles, and this is just me going to King Charles, and if I was King Charles, I would say, "Sir, you have cancer. You could absolutely come up to it with an excuse as to why you can't make it downstairs for dinner this evening.
Yeah.
You can send someone else as a message, because I think what's happening right now is that British people are saying our monarch sides with rapists when it's convenient. And I don't think that's Charles at all. I think he was quite distressed. In fact, I know from several people how distressed he was about state visiting and this, that, and the other, because it's his job to be king. So he always does this wonderful job of sort of presenting this. But I think if I were in his position, I would say, no, I'm not really feeling well enough to go downstairs today,
Mhm.
which would have sent a very clear signal, which is not, I've said they can't come, but rather I'm not participating because I
Right,
know
but I
that my
believe
brother is
behind
doing the same thing.
right, but I believe behind the scenes all of this was happening, and he was told, drag yourself down there, present yourself down there,
Oh
because
yeah,
if
yeah, yeah. I'm
yeah, yeah.
the king.
I I
Yeah,
assume that
Charles.
that was
From everything I know about Charles, everything I know
Mhm,
about Charles, he's not for the shenanigans in that way at
mhm,
all. And I think this is where he needs to be allowed to have the ability to say no, where the government needs to say, do you want to entertain this person? And he can have a
mhm,
conversation. And if he can't do it, then great. Prime Minister, you pull on your tails and you go entertain the person that you brought here. But
mhm,
don't bring them to my house. And so I think that this is the problem, is that from a PR standpoint, we now have a nightmare. We have what to the world looks like a monarchy, which is supporting Donald Trump and his Epstein bull,
mhm,
and then tossing their brother and his Epstein stuff to the river. And those two things are incongruent, and they have to be solved in a way that speaks to the public.
Here's my question, and I'm going to pretend to have naivete here in asking you this question. Why is Jeffrey Epstein still so important when this government, parts of this government, feel like they have all the autonomy to do anything, that this would not impact them or touch them? What is in those files that's causing so many people so much angst? Who are the people?
What
Who are the
has
people on
been
the list?
What has been reported is that Jeffrey Epstein was an agent of the Israeli government, and that
Oh,
Jeffrey Epstein's job was to make sure he gathered different members of many different political parties and ensnare them in really things that they could never come out of without exploding everything. This was the way that Israel was going to make sure that it had a hold on the Western world, so that these atrocities that they
are
speak
these
of would never happen.
allegations?
These are things which have been widely reported.
Okay.
When this was reported first, Jeffrey Epstein magically died.
Hung himself in his.
Now, I only know a few people who are prisoners ever who've come out of jail, but I hear from there it's very hard to have anything in your
Because
cell
they
which would
take
allow you to hang
everything away
yourself.
from you, right?
And if you're on maximum security watch, how you
Which he
hang
was.
yourself is it's very hard to hang yourself without help.
What is the message that this is sending to us, not just in the United States of America, but around the world? What is the message? Because this is absolute power, literally moving chess pieces and keep moving them. And we keep feeling like, well, maybe we don't, because we're still talking about little things when there's a global picture that we can't seem to wrap our minds around as a direct result of so many pieces moving at one time. But it all keeps coming back to Jeffrey Epstein. What the hell?
Well, I'd like to be more honest. It all keeps coming back to Israel.
All right, so I'm gonna need you to
It-
stop talking now. Stop, just move
and
along.
and and the only thing that I can say
Mhm.
that's been more concrete recently is when Jeffrey Epstein, and when I'm going to look this up, when they raided Jeffrey Epstein's apartment, they found paintings of Bill Clinton with a blue dress on, paintings of George W. Bush holding two little airplanes with twin towers behind him, paintings of on and on and on and on and on and on and on. All of those gifts had come from Israel. That was published. This is widely reported. Like, this is not news. Same artist, same gifts. All of these things given to Jeffrey Epstein, they were all found in his apartment. This is not news.
But okay. So for those of us who cover the news, how did we miss this?
Didn't we? Were being distracted. We were, and this is. I just want to talk science to you. Okay,
Mhm.
science, physics. If you set something which is made of steel on fire, what happens to it?
Melts.
Not really. Right? It's there. It might get orange. It might weaken some of the structure that's in it. Right. If you were to topple the building, it might fall to the left or the right, right?
Right.
But help me in physics.
How
Help me
this
in
building
physics.
comes straight down
Help
and
me in
not go to the
physics.
left or the right.
And then you have all of these videos which have now come out more and more because I remember seeing them originally and they were all disappeared from the internet, but now they're out again. Help me with explosions along the side of the building. Help me with the eyewitnesses and the tapes of those people on the plane who immediately were Israeli driving those planes. It's interesting how everyone says these are Israeli voices, this is what we hear, da 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 da. And then the family that we blamed, and this is the key point, the family that we blame happens to be at the White House for dinner and happens to be the only people allowed to fly back to the Middle East on 9/11. Now, that all sounds like, oh, you could be going to some serious. Okay, let's just not, let's just go to physics. Does it work in science? Because if it doesn't work in science, we have to ask ourselves, what yellow bus are we asked not to see? And so when you say, what does it say to the world? I think the world today is saying, we have lived in a world where we have been told, do not see the yellow bus. But unfortunately, it's so inexplicable. And they make so many gaffes in making it so inexplicable that it's hard not to see the yellow bus
But if they would take Jeffrey Epstein out, what
and
more for
take
anybody?
down
And that's what,
towers
yes. What
and,
more
and,
for
and
everyone
insure
else?
the towers before they take them down the week before. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, look that up. Insured the towers and then imploded the towers. There were thousands of reports of window washers who were up and down that building trying to do what? Because they're not washing windows. Why are these people all over the place? What's happening? All these reports. And then there was an insurance policy taken out. Look up insurance policy, World Trade Center before collision. And look who took out that insurance policy. Oh my goodness, how interesting this thread of information.
We
So
are
one
living
plus two
in
is
some
three.
dangerous, but I have to say this, we're living in some dangerous and perilous times that if people are being taken out in this country at the behest of another country, and then we turn it into a war with Iraq, where so many
Do you all
I
remember Gaddafi? Remember the propaganda
remember Gaddafi.
around Gaddafi? Do you know
Yes.
Gaddafi? Gaddafi had a country where nobody had to pay for medical anything, where there were no homeless people because everyone either had a home or were given a flat by the government. That if you needed a surgery, the country would just automatically fly you anywhere in the world to get it. That had gold reserves in the billions and billions and paid every citizen a check every year for the money made off of that gold. Do you know that that was the Gaddafi that we turned into the terrorist that we then had to get rid of? Why? Because it was impossible that this African dude over here was treating his people who might train the rest of Africa how to do this. And what would happen to the Western world if all of these people began to behave like so? Now, same thing happened in this place called Persia, where the Shah of Iran was so great to his people, where they had all of this money and this and the other. And all of a sudden, the Western world inserts a regime which has made it crazy. We stopped calling it Persia, by the way. We
That's
only
why
call it Iran.
that's why we have to stop believing everything that's put in black and white. That's why we have to know the history. It's important. Jesus. And
So when we
we're so sound bitish in this country.
Oh,
Oh, well, they said these people are terrorists, so they must be terrorists. And we repeat this stuff over and over again without doing any history. So the young dude, the 35-year-old now in Troy, that's telling people, listen, we have got this, we're going to do this. They've been trying to kill him forever and
do
a
you,
day.
do you remember the man's name that they blamed for 9/11,
No.
who was cancer ridden in the mountains, receiving
Oh, oh,
chemotherapy?
oh, I'm looking at his face. And they
Hmm.
said his name so
Hmm.
much.
Hmm. Remember him? Do you remember how
Yes.
many years it took us to find him? receiving radiation for cancer in the mountains of a desert region. Do you remember how many years it took us to finally find the cave where somebody had hooked? Have you ever seen a cancer patient go through chemotherapy or radiation? They got to be hooked up to a machine. Talk about a beaming light of information. Here I am, radiation. Here, hi, hello, it's me on the map. But nobody could find him. We didn't find him because we were okay knowing that he probably didn't have as much to do with this as we said, Bin Laden.
Bin
Bin
Laden.
Laden, right? And the Bin Laden family, by the way, was where during 9/11? At the White House for dinner. It's public information. And they were flown from the White House to the Middle East on 9/11, gathered and brought to the White House from all of their fancy, magnificent mansions in Washington, D.C., dinner at the White House, and off we go. And every eyewitness said that the accent of the people on the planes was not anything but Israeli. Now, I want to get a little further. Fox News reported, as well as other media outlets at the same time, that malls all around the country had these little booths in them in which the FBI had discovered that Israelis had set up these mall booths where they were actually spying on different portions of government. All of this happening just before 9/11. Now, this is something you can also look up in your thing because this is something that was explosive at the time, and we talked about the time. We did nothing about that. What I'm saying to you is that all roads are not always leading back to Rome. There's some other countries and cities where a lot of roads lead back to. And the question is, I've not presented any new information this morning on purpose because there's a new information that I refuse to present because I'd like to be here tomorrow. I'm not presenting any of that. I'm only presenting the things which are already
All
here
public
on the
knowledge.
table, on public knowledge, where you can Google every word I just said and bam, here goes the document. My God, what is this? The person who bought TikTok happens to be the number one investor in the country of Israel. Israel now is considering purchasing Warner Brothers, Paramount. These are the parent companies of places like CNN. Benjamin Netanyahu got on television and said he needs to have a war against the woke right mind because that is dangerous. That he's losing the support of the woke right, which he called as fastidious and dangerous as the woke left. Now, I want you to hear that.
Wait,
It's,
wait,
it's
wait, wait.
published.
They're
Yes.
turning against the right, people on the right who are not following the agenda.
They're re-brainwashing. How do you do that? You buy all of the platforms that they're on and you begin to reseed information. So he described war as now about propaganda from the standpoint of social media. Now, this is not news, people. This is something he said live on television. We're just pontificating about it currently. The things which are news, I won't even say because I'd like to be here tomorrow. So that is the truth of the state we use. So when you ask, what does this mean for the world? It means that we have to wake up and say, you know what, Bill, Donald, whoever else is in those files, sorry, I got to put you out there because I can no longer allow the entire country and the Western world to continue living in a place of we're just going to keep doing whatever you like in order to keep your secret. If you have a secret, which I don't know if you have a secret, but if you have a secret, put it out there. Let's talk
Well,
about it.
wasn't it Barack Obama who put up the thing that bin Laden was killed, showed the footage that they'd gone into the cave and got.
Yes, it was. So this is an American, and again, remember the American government works in its interest. I don't want anyone to think that we as a government are empirically good. We are not. We are an imperialist nation who has at many times committed atrocities across mankind. One of the things which is interesting currently about the freedom of speech and the freedom of the press is that we're allowed to talk about it. We can, as individuals, choose to have a discussion about it. We can't do that in
But
Russia.
that window is closing.
It's closing, baby, which is why I'm saying what I'm saying right now while they're still protected under the law. I don't know if we'll be protected tomorrow. So we can discuss what we think is atrocious. That's why I could put up a post about Christopher Columbus, the Easter Bunny. It's why I could talk about other things that were going on, like Resolution 181 and how this entire thing even came to be with Lord
Yes.
Rothschild, right? This is all of this truth and this information, and we're spitting knowledge, we're talking wisdom, we're talking to each other about what we see. Please don't unsee the yellow bus. Is there? Now, call this a conspiracy theorist and whatever you want to do, that's fine. Research it. I don't want anybody walking right from here without and researching, because I think then can you say when Marjorie Taylor Greene sounds like she has sense, you need to put a red flag up and say, wait a
Oh
minute.
my God, I know. And I mean, she's been fighting, right? Whatever she has discovered, she has literally been fighting to her
It
own
woke her
detriment.
up out of all that crazy conversation. I haven't heard her say one nice thing yet because she is beginning to read the information from the
Mhm.
committee she's now sitting on. When she got on that committee, which releases funding for
Mhm.
foreign agents, do you know that APAC is not registered as a foreign lobby interest group, even though it foreign lobbies for Israel? It's the only one that has its home office in Israel. Now, I want you to hear me, and I want you to hear me good. I am 100% okay with the Jews.
Mhm.
I think that all of us need to look deep into ourselves and stop being anti Semitic.
Mhm.
Jewish faith does not support Israel. In fact, it is in opposition. Both the Torah and the Talmud say that they cannot set up a
Mhm.
Jerusalem without a Messiah. And of course, there is no Messiah for the
Mhm.
Jewish people. It also says that when the Messiah turns, where he comes, you shall go to him and create a new Jerusalem. It also says that Jerusalem cannot be created out of war. So many, many Jewish people around the face of the earth are saying this is obscene.
Right,
This is
and they're
against
trying to hold Netanyahu to war crimes, right?
absolutely,
And they have been protesting him in Israel. Not It's not
absolutely.
becoming public news, and
So
those are
please do not blame Jewish people for this issue. It's an Israeli issue. It's an Israeli. It's a man who was educated in the United States of America in Cheltenham,
Cheltenham. Hmm.
who was over there causing mayhem. And by the way, genetics has come out as of last week to explain that the only people en masse who hold the original understanding of Judea, Jewish people in that land are the Palestinians who have converted their religiosity, but their bloodline is more Jewish than the European Jews who have moved there. So when we talk about homeland, Zionism, you'd have to go to the genetics. The genetics is a problem. We talked about genetics and we talked about that Eve gene as well, that L0, L1, L2, L3. And
Right.
that N, we
Mhm.
talked about that, right? If you get rid of the awakening in the world is if you were to get rid of the L's, you would extinct over a period of time N and N. Well, M and N is Europe. So, what happens with this idea of white centric political thought process and superiority? Well, it fails in genetics because it's a copy of the original L. Look that up. You see, so this is where we are. Welcome to the shit show, right? This is where we are, and I need us to, instead of walking around eyes wide
Yes.
shut, I
Hmm.
need
Which a
us to walk
lot
around.
of us are. A
I
lot,
need,
and I say
yeah.
us because the
Mhm.
more I research, the more stunned I become by how much we have missed and that it was purposeful. So, what do we serve as people around the world to the leaders of this world,
Mm.
right? Where does that start and end? And I believe that there's a lot of chaos happening here to keep us focused on losing our jobs, not being able to pay for health insurance, people marching around in the streets. Um, you know,
No Kings Act reminds me a lot of the 1960s and the 1970s, because it reminds me of the Vietnam movements. And it reminds me of the people who went outside and said, we're not going to Vietnam to do this craziness this time. We're not doing it. We're not going. And I think the pressure from the mass of people, and this is where I think the mass of country needs to understand this. If you are brave enough to wake up and ask yourself the questions about the yellow bus in front of you, and you're brave enough to go outside and say to the greater world and to your neighbors, we're not okay with this, and you and your neighbors come together, when the millions of neighbors take to the streets like they did this past weekend and
Mhm.
say no to an idea, the 4 or 5 people in power are scared. The truth is, guillotines have
Say that
removed the
again.
heads of
The
no
four
kings.
and five people in power are scared. One of the things that they've always said is if the people rise up, I don't know what we're going to do. Because the people have been made to think for as long as they possibly can, we have no power. None.
All the power sits in the people. All the power sits in people. Because if they say no, it doesn't happen. You can take a military tank and drive it in town and start shooting, but if a million people get on top of that tank is done. So what I would say to you is ant culture, right? The thousands of ants that come to protect the hive is kind of the way in which humans need to begin to think about how they speak to humanity. If there's something that you see wrong that you absolutely despise, talk to your neighbors and take it to the street together as a force, as a union. And I think that that's kind of the place. And also, we have to be okay with saying some of this is going to get ugly. You're going to learn some things about the people that you thought you loved that you don't love anymore. Some of those people that you thought were your heroes are not your heroes at all. And I think that that's the ugliness and the truth that we're going to have to come to. But we're going to have to say, all right, you MAGA people, America first on the total whatever else. Is America first if we give all our money to another foreign country? Is that America
And
first?
why are we giving all of our money to another foreign country?
Are you willing to trade your supremacy for the rule of a foreign agent? Or do you feel that that makes you a slave?
Mm.
Which one is it? And so I think people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, I can't believe I'm even saying this, are beginning to point out the truths about the way in which government is working. May God protect her and a few others. I can't believe I'm saying this again. May God protect Candace Owens, who's out here speaking truth every day. She's been so mad about the death of her friend, she didn't gave up all the information. All of the information. So yes, the Louvre was robbed yesterday at 9:30 in the morning by 4 people who happened to take 9 pieces in 4 minutes. Yes, that happened.
Mhm.
But while that was happening, the ceasefire had ended because
Yes,
Israel
it
was
did.
bombing.
Yes.
And we were talking about missing jewels.
And somewhere along the line, I believe it's all connected. I do. I really believe it's all connected.
I don't know. I don't when I come here and I speak on the things which I can verify as fact because I'd like to be able to stand 10 toes down on anything that I say. And at least if I can't stand 10 toes down, I want to be 9. Um, what is true is that light always defeats darkness. That's also a scientific truth. Anything
Mhm.
which is dark is expelled by light.
Mhm.
Knowledge is the root of light. If you're a brother out there, you're a Masonic person, you understand light to be knowledge. Knowledge defeats darkness, ignorance at every turn. We have to allow ourselves to open up to knowledge and to lean into it and to
Mhm.
speak to those around us and say, don't believe the craziness you're hearing. That is actually a yellow bus. It's a bus and it's yellow and it's standing in front of you.
But here's the other thing: all this information that you spouted for the last half an hour with AI stuff is starting to disappear. So we're able to now take information that was always we got to take it and put it somewhere, find out where we can keep it in history. When the books were being burned, we
Well,
were sitting
here's
there
one of the
going,
things. Here's a trick. I learned this. If you ask AI, where did you get that information and is it true? AI will tell you on
mm,
all its platforms. So if you say AI, you say, AI, tell me about Christopher Columbus, and it starts with this great European tale. And then you say,
mm,
AI, is that information true? Can you tell me if that's true? Can you tell me the actual history? AI will say, actually,
mm,
that information is not true. That information was this and the other. You have to ask AI the next question. It's very interesting. I had to do this thing with AI
mm,
about this. And it will tell you when it was changed. Oh, so and so came in and changed that system so that it didn't
mm.
reflect that because it wasn't Eurocentric. And it's AI is kind of like a child with autism. And I mean that in the kindest way. It doesn't lie.
Nothing does not lie.
It
Yes.
just it tells you whatever information it has And it gives it to you like it can, right? So ask it the next question, and
But when
there
you
will
when
come
it
the
tells
next
you
truth.
something, when AI tells you something, instead of accepting it as gospel truth, says, where did you get that? Is this true? And where, and cite where you got that information from.
Who
Absolutely.
told you that this was true? And what did you know to be true? And were they lying? And everybody will tell them, okay, they're lying. Ask AI, was he arrested and driven back to Spain
Mhm.
in chains? Oh, yes, of course he was.
Mhm.
Yes. Well, then what is this great whatever? Well, you know that. Is that done to keep certain people down? Yes, X, Y, and Z. And
Mhm.
it's across because they haven't figured out a way yet to get the computer to stop telling you information when you keep prompting it. They just figured out a
Mhm.
way to get the first piece of information to be favorable,
And
hoping that
hoping
most
that
people would
people will
stop
just
there.
accept right. Most people stop there. Right. Right.
And just like with a human being, don't stop at the first answer. Keep going. Keep going.
Mhm.
Always ask why. Why?
Mhm.
Okay, you hate me. Why? You love me. Why? What is it that causes you? And we get down to the root. When you get down to the root, you find medicine. Otherwise,
Mhm.
you're just dealing with a band-aid.
Every week I say to you, share less. I want you to be safe. Every damn week you come on here and you give more and you share more. Every week I say, David, share less. I
You
we
know what? You, as my grandmother would say, you will miss me when I'm gone,
yeah,
but one day we're all going.
absolutely.
And so on my epitaph may be written, he told the truth. And um, and I'm not going anywhere by me. There'll be no car that hit me. I will not have fallen down a long flight of stairs. I have no disease that will take me out of here anytime quickly. So remember that. But also, as long as we live in a country where it is legal for us to speak truth to power, where freedom of the press matters. When recently, when the Pentagon told those reporters what they would and would not be able to report on, they all left the
Left.
Pentagon.
They all must have been like 3 people left in there. All.
Enshrined in Article 1 are many freedoms, one of which is the freedom of the press.
Mhm.
It is the right for you to speak with freedom of speech.
Mhm.
And that first article is grounding for the founding of everything else that we believe, all of our laws, how we move, what we can exercise as a public. Democracy requires this freedom. People have lived and died for this freedom in my own family.
Mhm.
I certainly cannot honor their lives or their death with silence.
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate you. We all appreciate you. Um, you and I started out. I invited you to my radio show when there was all this hubbub about Hamas and the Jewish people. And you came in and told us about the title, what happened in England, how Sir Rothschild was trying to figure out where to put the Jewish people. That's when I began to do my research, and the rabbit hole that ish took me down. I said, "All right, David, let's keep talking. Let's get and more and more, more and more. We are learning that what we see isn't what is. What's been put in front of us is a distraction to the other things that are going on around us. But we've also been taught to we've been so conditioned for decades that what we see isn't, and what is over there, that's a whack-a-mole, and don't look over there, and go look at the housewives of this and housewives of that, and let's talk about cancel culture, and let's talk about, like, we've been so distracted. And now it feels like the world, well, other parts of the world were waking up, like China. The people were, tanks were rolling over them. They were asking all these questions, what they need to do. Now it feels like the collective world, particularly here in these United States, folks are starting to wake up and go, wait, 1 and 1 is not 42, right? And so they're trying to figure it out, but they're so woefully behind the 8 ball in terms of researching and asking and digging. Even if you don't do it publicly, but just start to ask the questions, then a lot more things will make sense. That this stuff that we're going through with the government shutdown, with who's in power, with folks losing their jobs, all of it is designed for a larger purpose that we can't even begin to imagine. But because our human condition is that we have to think about ourselves, how are we going to eat? Where are we going to live? What are we going to drive? We couldn't see any of this because the vast majority believed that Iraq was involved in this thing at the World Trade Center. The vast majority. Only to find out that to be taken out
And
Saddam Hussein, Bin Laden, and what is this thing about blaming the Muslims? What is this thing about making sure that the
well,
Muslims are the voices that people blame? That's and it's created such hatred around the world. Child, I can't
I
with you
think
today.
one of the things that people use in fear mongering is this understanding of for instance, Quran says that Jesus is a prophet. He says he's the savior of the world. The Quran says that every one of those miracles presented, they believe in the Virgin Mary and the virgin birth. They believe in all this. That the only thing that the Quran does not support is Jesus as Messiah. And that comes from Jesus's own testimony that you have said this, not I. Right. So this is what Quran says. There is very little difference in the understanding of Jesus Christ in Christianity and in Islam. If you were to be fanatical about it, Peter believes that Christ is coming back very quickly, and so Christians begin to pray daily. Muslims pray 5 times daily, always in preparation for the appearance of this Savior, this prophet who comes back. Christians were supposed to pray with morning song, evening song, matins, and this, that, and the other. Some do, some don't. The population of Peter, which does not believe in the Messiah, we understand who they are. There is a major propaganda from a particular population which is bent on making sure that all people who believe that Islam, all people who live in the Middle East, who follow Islam, are problematic. Why is that? Well, our geopolitical thing needs the Middle East. I was asked the question by some political people at this rally. They said, "What would you do, David, about the Israeli Palestinian conflict?" And I said, I would put the United Nations in Israel and I would secede it as a country and I would gift it to the United Nations. And then I would say, anyone who wants to live here may live here like it's international territory, but you have no nation that you belong to. You're living on the United Nations territory. I recognize that the Western world will not give up this territory because they are embedded in the belief that they must control portions of the Middle East for their own good. And so the idea of allowing Israel to fail is greatly based upon if Israel fails, what Western place do we have? We call it a democracy. We see if it is or it isn't, right? But if they don't win, then all of a sudden Africa gets back this place that we're so interested in. So recognizing that many powers will not allow that to happen, the next question is, what would they allow? Well, it seems like they would allow the United Nations to control a territory. The United Nations is already considering moving. Some people are saying to Ghana. Some people are saying other places that they're going to in Africa, moving out of New York at times. There's all this conversation going on. But what if the United Nations was sat as a body with a territory that once was Israel? And you allowed all the people who were currently in Israel to remain. You allowed all the Palestinians to be there too. And there, these war crimes and atrocities would be very hard to happen because the world's attention would constantly be on every decision ever made in that area. It would be very hard to blow up or have war in this place. It would be very hard to take over lands or territories. It would be very hard to acquisition anything. Give back land to the Palestinians that was stolen from them in many ways, and take Jerusalem and turn it into the United Nations. Now, that policy is a win for most of the world except for Benjamin Netanyahu. Because if honestly, if your real goal is to have a safe place for people of Jewish heritage to go, there is nothing that requires that to be a country. Not the Torah, not the Talmud, not biblical texts or scrolls in New Testament or Old, not Quran. None of these Abrahamic faith books speak to this as a reality that needs to happen. Instead, what it says is, there shall be no war, that you shall not fight. This is a sin in every one of those religions. And so this idea of warfare to claim home is obscene. I want you to understand this war against Islam starts really in the Middle Ages and before, when you have the Moors who come in, who are Islamic, and take over territories, but instead of creating barbaric prisoners out of people, they begin to teach them and
Mhm.
educate them and give them things like astrology and mathematics. The numerical system that we use today, the Arabic, is Moorish.
Mhm.
How we build is Moorish. A lot of the ways in which we don't live with our chicken, cow, and or goat are Moorish. Running water is Moorish, right? When we look at these Alhambra, the Alhambra Palace and the Spanish place that sat there was a Moorish palace.
Mhm.
This is where hatred
Hatred.
during Crusades is against a religiosity based upon something that wasn't religious to begin with.
Begin with.
It's territorial.
David,
So, uh, yeah, yeah, that's
listen.
where we are.
There are days when I'm tempted to have you on more than one day a week, but once is enough because I swear I get off the I get
You're
offline
the
with
same.
you and I go and I say, okay, now I got to do some more research. I'm someone who likes to learn and to understand and to, so a lot of the times when I see the comments being made on social media about the things that really we should not be focusing on, I get so damn irritated. And so I just either don't respond or I move.
What is the audience? What is the audience saying now? Because we don't. I sometimes I miss being able to see and hear
Okay,
what people are
so
feeling, saying.
Monica says, I appreciate you both. I listen, research, and take heed, preparing accordingly. I'm praying for us all. Jennifer says, thank you, David. Marguerite says, that is what I taught my child. Do not stop at the first answer. Julie says, we appreciate you so very much. Rosin says, David, thank you so much for all you share to keep us informed. Just wow. Julie says, I'm
Let's
praying for you.
skip over the praise and thanks.
Okay, all right.
Thank you, but
Um,
no,
Okay, all right,
what's
all
in
right.
the?
Let's see. There's a lot of that because people remember people are just starting to learn these things. So take the praise and
That's
thanks
true.
because they just did not know, right?
Thank
And if
you.
there was no platform for them
But
to
I
teach,
want you
and
all to
yes,
know that
yes,
this is about you. This
yes,
is about you and
mhm,
learning and
yes,
enriching and
yes,
becoming more knowledgeable so
yes,
that you can teach your
mhm,
kids, your neighbors, your friends what's really
yeah.
happening. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
Monica says, while I
yeah.
listen, I'm gaining more and more understanding as to why I see the Orthodox Jewish people that I work with do what they do. They do not look at television, listen to radio, nor use online platforms. Um, it's just a lot of thank you, right? Andrea Manley says, uh, Jesus, it's a lot. She says, Mother, the rabbit hole goes deep and the playback doesn't change. Marguerite says, believe none of what you hear and half of what you see. Alexandra said he was the first to kick out the colonizers who were robbing the country via oil. Just people are listening. People are
I'd love it
listening.
if our listeners could give us some questions that they're wondering, and then we can come back
Okay. All
in a
right.
week's time
So
and address these things.
yes.
Yeah.
So write your questions down, and then we'll we can answer them. Well, David can answer them because I'm still a baby at this. I'm still researching, still
Mhm.
just trying to figure out, because I'm not speaking to what I don't know, and a lot of this I don't know. So as I am listening to you, oh my God. As I'm listening to you, I'm like, Jesus, and the rabbit hole goes deeper, which is why I think I'm spending a lot more time off social media and a lot more time researching and asking and watching the things that I know that will speak to these things. I don't know how long they'll be on YouTube and places like that, right? And I just want you to be aware, Stacy Patton, who was an educator, Dr. Stacy Patton, she's being flagged on social media a lot now, right? They're like, keep saying, if you keep posting these things, we're going to take you off. So there's
My account says when people go to friend me, it says, "Are you sure you want to be friends with this person? They could be a fake account."
yes.
And then when they push yes, they say you have a restricted amount of time before you can be friends with. It's very interesting how the algorithm is upset with us. Yeah, yeah, it's true.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Andrea says, pro tip for every item that made you said, what? Take that item and go do some research. David's breadcrumbs all lead to a smorgasbord of information. Absolutely. Andrea, absolutely correct. I can't, David just keeps me, and sometimes I go, what did you just? And I keep looking, and I keep reading.
Right.
I
Yeah.
have to because once the knowledge is up here, nobody
Yeah.
can take it away from you, right? So
You
I'm still
can't
I
take it
gotta.
away. And we have been a people of oral tradition. and
Yes.
memory for a real long time. We got good genetics for oral tradition. And so we remember it. And it
Yes.
starts on what was that?
Yes. Yes. Laura,
Yeah.
now no, now listen, I gotta go to the I gotta go. So I'm gonna let you answer this one because I don't know and I've been digging. What is our interest in Venezuela? What do we want from them? That was Laura's question.
Um, the overarching principle of this is Venezuela has a lot of the keys to the secrets of minerals that we need and resources that we need. But on top of that, we believe that we can pressure them from the idea of cartel, and that would be an easy war. One of the talking points for Republicans on the right side who voted for Trump was this the idea of invasion into America. And many people feel like the drug issue is coming from Venezuela. This is propaganda, right? And into the country. And so what we see now is a push to find a war. Find a war, find a war. If you can
Mhm.
find a war and declare a war and the American people go along with it, you then get
Mhm.
the executive powers that come along with the war. So I want us to
Mhm.
not focus on the country itself of the day or the problem of the day or the propaganda of the day, but recognize that the executive branch, in order to really have all of the power that it would like to have, really needs to get the
Mhm.
powers you get in wartime presidency.
Mhm.
Today, that's Venezuela. I don't think it's going to really take because I think people are concerned about Epstein.
Right, right, but
But
I
I
think
think
it
that his
might take
base,
because Venezuela doesn't have the things that are required to keep them safe. I really do believe this will take. I do, but let's see,
they don't.
one
Right.
way or the other, one way or the other. But remember when they were talking about Greenland and
Yeah.
Canada?
And even I mean, all of these, we're always going to go somewhere and create a war. Now, you threaten Canada, you threaten the United Kingdom, you threaten when you talk about Greenland, you threaten Denmark, you threaten the
Hmm.
United Nations. This is craziness. Venezuela doesn't have that. So I think what we look at when we talk about this is we shouldn't keep our eye off the ball. This is a game of chess that we're in.
Yeah.
And the end game for everyone is to capture the king. And if that is true, remember to keep your eye on that ball, not to go fraying in and out and get into
Hmm.
the nuance, but rather
Hmm.
understand that in order for this president not to go away, the
We have to have
easiest
more.
route is to be at war.
Damn. I gotta go. I cannot with you today. I have to go. Thank you for everything. Now I'm going to be listening and doing audio books and listening and reading. I started reading Jane Meyer's Dark Money, Cast the Origins of Our Discontent, trying to pull all of that stuff together as to why there was so much focus on people of color to draw a line in the sand to keep us. Oh, it's just a whole lot. And then now all of this, the Epstein files, I think, has opened up a Pandora's box that will not be closed.
It's an international Pandora's box. Internet, I wanted to understand this is not, we are so homogenous. This is a
I
worldwide
yes,
problem. You see
yes,
Prince Andrew, the United Kingdom, you see
yeah,
Donald Trump in America, you see, but guess how many other people in other countries are doing the same thing? This is a big problem.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And if all these people were co-opted to give one country power over the entire world, we got a situation. I gotta go. Thank you all so much. Thank you, David. They'll come back with their questions next week. This episode of
Me
Mornings
too.
with
Bye
Mo.
bye.
Bye bye, honey. This episode of Mornings with Mova is officially over. I am Mova. I'll see you when I see you. Bye, everybody. Bye.